Hello, everybody, and happy Halloween. It is Andrew back on the channel, and we are back in Starting Point having a good old time here as we get back from our fun trick-or-treating with the fam bam and hop on to do a quick video run through for the Hack the Box Starting Point series, and we are doing the room Crocodile. So, as always, we have spun up our pwn box via through Hack the Box, and as well spun up our targeted machine. And we are going to go ahead and get started with our enumeration and getting some of these questions answered. So let's go ahead and, as always, get started. So, starting off with sudo nmap, going to be doing attack sc, as well as attack sv if you're looking for our services on what's running, plus our IP address 10.129.140.169. We are throwing that in and letting that run. Hopefully everyone had an amazing Halloween, went out with the fam bam, got some candy for the jar, and then loading up for next year. So let's see. Looks like we have port 21 open with an FTP going on. And it looks like we have anonymous FTP login allowed. That's going to be important for later. So let's get to that here in a bit. We also see here a port 80 open for HTTP, TCP open with, okay, awesome. So those are important things to recall. So with FTP being open and it being available via anonymously, what this means is we should be able to log in with no valid credentials. And by doing that, we'd be logging in via through anonymous login. And that's going to be allowed because right here within this scan, we can see that anonymous FTP login is currently allowed, or FTP code 230. Now, let's real quick go through FTP TAC H for our TAC help. And that's going to show us that there's some available commands to us once we see our local host, but we're going to be actually connecting via through our target IP. So I believe we have that copied still. Yes, we do. So perfect. So we're going to do FTP with our IP address that you're going to have from when you spin up your box. Ours is ending in 196. And we are going to hit enter. Now is asking us for a login of what is the user we're signing into. Now, as I mentioned before above, when we did that nmap scan, we saw that we could log in successfully just by going as anonymous. So we are simply going to type out anonymous. And we're in. Login successful. Now, what if we're not familiar with the commands we have at our fingertips here within FTP? Well, we can always do what we always can do with most commands and type in the help command. That's going to give us a solid list of certain things we can leverage and use to pull and get into what we need to. Now, specifically what we're going to do now, though, is we want to use the dir and get, which is going to be listing our directories and then pulling those directories and getting them onto our host. So let's quickly do a dir. And it looks like what we see is we can see that there are two lists we're probably going to want to get that pull out of here. We're going to be looking for that allowed user list and that allowed user list password. So let's go ahead and grab the first allowed, and we can tab. That way this auto completes for us. So we're going to get the get allowed user list, hit enter. We're going to see that that was pulled over successfully. And let's go ahead and also get the allowed user list. Oh, is that not going to autofill for me? Oh, I know why. It's because I'm not starting with allowed. Duh. Little things, folks. Little things. There we go. Get allowed user list pass. Boom. And we can see that those were pulled. So we can go ahead and exit out of our FTP connection. So we can see we're now back inside of our normal connection. So maybe it'd be easier to do a LS. Yeah, let's do that real fast. So just to show you that we did pull that over, we can see we now have the allowed user list and the allowed user list dot password. So let's go ahead and cat out our allowed user list first. So it looks like we have an Aaron, a Pwn Meow, a Egotis Claw, and an admin. So good to see. Let's also do a cat for our allowed list user pass. And it looks like we're seeing some stored passwords. So what we could do now, if we had a long list of specific, maybe, let's say we had hundreds of these. This is something you could easily put into a script or maybe Metasploit to make a list as well for brute force cracking. But obviously we have a pretty small list here specifically. But now let's see if we can get into our... Let me copy back over my IP address and go back into our FTP server. And let's just go for Aaron real fast and see if we can get in with Aaron. So it doesn't look like we can. So it's saying that the FTP server is anonymous only and saying that our FTP login failed. So maybe we're in a debacle. We can't get into FTP, but wait a minute. If we recall correctly, we have a port 80 open that was running on Apache HTTP. So if we have something running on port 80, let's go ahead and see if we can just go navigate to a web page with our IP address that we have, which I'm pretty sure we're going to be able to. All right. And if we look at that, looks like we do have some type of bootstrap business. Business is now digital. Well, that's awesome. But now that I know that we have a site we can actually go to, the next thing I want to go see is maybe if there's any other directories that I would be familiar with or wanting to look into to find any additional directories we can maybe look into for logging into, or maybe if there's some type of admin page. So let's see what we can find. So we're going to minimize this and go back into our command prompt. We're going to exit out of our FTP session. We'll clear this out to make it a little bit more cleaner. And we are going to go into, I like using, and there's several different ways you can do this, but I like using GoBuster. So I have a little pre-made script I'm pulling up here that I pull out of my little Word doc cheat sheet. I'm going to pull back in here and drop in the correct IP address. Now, the other thing I want to go into is rather than doing my short list here with my common text, I'm going to go into dirbuster directory 2.3. I'm looking for my small.txt .x. Now, I'm wanting to do a switch and specifically looking for PHP and HTML to filter out any unnecessary clutter that's not going to interest me. So the PHP and HTML files are going to be most common be pages where, if we're lucky, we can find some type of administrative panel login page that will allow us with the credentials that we found off that HTTP server to log in. So with that TAC-X, I'm going to type in after that with a space PHP, HTML. And if I have this in correctly and I hit enter, we can let this spin for a second. But one thing I can see already that's really kind of caught my eye is login.php. So while we're letting this think, I'm going to pivot here real quick and go to my web address, type in login.php, and it looks like we have a login page. Looks kind of like WordPress, so, but could be whatever. Could be whatever this lab actually has into. Now, if you recall, inside the commands we ran a little bit earlier, we did have, we can close that because I'm pretty sure we found what we needed. And I can pull these bat out. So let's cat that user list, and just for visibility here, we're going to cat out our password list. So we have 4 usernames with 4 passwords. Now, I'm assuming the one we're going to be looking for on this one is going to be the admin login. So we have our username for admin. And pivot back over here to parrot. Let's grab this 4th one, because I'm assuming they're in order here for Aaron, Pwn Meow, and for our admin one. Let's go here and copy that in. And oh my goodness, here is your, I'm assuming that's going to say flag with our flag here. So it looks like we're good to rock and roll. I'm going to keep that hidden so you can get the flag for yourself and find this one. I think if you follow along with the video, you'll find it relatively simple and easy to get into. But yeah, everybody, congratulations. We just knocked out Crocodile. And now you can kind of go back through here as we kind of walked through all the process, which obviously I've read ahead, so I kind of knew where we were having to get to, and submit that root flag. So hopefully this was a fun room to kind of get to and navigate through and do some enumeration, go through some FTP anonymous logins to that server, using some basic commands to list out that directory and then pull that over so we can get those files from there. And as always, had a blast learning with you, everybody, and we'll see you guys on the next video. Thanks.